Okay, hello. My name is Annika Lungfest, and I'm the founder of the NGO and platform Pedestrian Space, which operates at the intersection of communication, media, research, and advocacy on issues of walkability and more broadly urban resilience. And we are currently developing what I call a global urban heat media lab project for 2027. We're currently behind the scenes developing that, and as part of that, developing a network of individuals, scholars, practitioners, professionals all around the world who are working with issues of urban heat or want to amplify their work in that area. As part of that, I'm here today with Assistant Professor Tariq. He's in Peshawar in Pakistan. He is an architect and Erasmus Mundi Joint Master's alum in Urban Climate and Sustainability and an assistant professor at the Department of Architecture, CECOS, I hope I pronounced that right, Peshawar. So we are meeting today. We already met one time earlier this week. That was really nice to have that first meeting, and we decided to meet again today. It's Friday right now as we're recording this. In August 2026, and to talk about something that he has a lot of expertise in, which is indigenous cooling, which is not only really interesting, but really critical for issues of urban heat. So thank you, Tariq, for being here today. I'm going to turn it over to you to share a bit. I thought it'd be nice to have this video to basically share a bit for anybody who's not even familiar with architecture. What is indigenous cooling?
Thank you, Annie. Indigenous cooling is basically the cooling, the vernacular cooling strategies that developed in a culture, in a country, or in a region over generations. In Pakistan, in the region Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Peshawar, Sawabi, where I live, people are used to the urban heat, and urban heat is now a common vocabulary term in our region. So indigenous cooling is the ways people are adapt to the urban heat, to the thermal comfort. There are varieties of ways people used to cool themselves in a building or outside the building in a public space. So away from the technology, when technology was not developed much, no air conditioners, and these techniques and these ways existed over a long time. So this is basically the indigenous wisdom of cooling or vernacular cooling.
Yeah, and as you phrase it, it's a wisdom and adaptation strategies, and it's ancient. So I know with your work, you've field documented a taxonomy of 33 indigenous passive cooling typologies. So clearly, there's the need for the documentation, and well, I will ask you: is there a need to bring that wisdom forward, or would you say it's already mainstream there, or do you see in our contemporary time a need to really recenter that wisdom?
Of course, as an architect, when I practice here architecture in Peshawar, this is a problem that people are getting away from these vernacular or indigenous strategies. They are more relying on the technology side of the cooling, like air conditioner, HVAC, and it's difficult for us to convince someone to include courtyards or thick walls or the strategic planning of functional trees. Functional trees, in my sense, are those trees which are not ornamental but which can provide to improve the biodiversity here, the bird species here, and they regulate the microclimate rather than the species that are imported to the region from somewhere else as a decorative element. So when we convince someone with the courtyard, their answer is that okay, we need enclosed space. Don't need courtyard, especially in rural areas of Pakistan. In my village where I live in Sawabi, even in a one canal or two canal house where they have much space, but still they convince architect, they convince designer that they don't need courtyard, they need enclosed spaces, and they copy, like literally they have pictures and images from Pinterest or from AI somewhere, or from images from abroad, from Middle East, and they want me to build those houses, forgetting about the local climate and local culture and the indigenous things that we developed, and it actually worked here. In my observation, in my study, the technology work less efficient when we talk about the urban heat or the urban cooling or regulating microclimate or lowering the urban temperature in the cities or in the villages. So the indigenous wisdom or the indigenous ways of cooling work more better than the technological ways that we are working on and investing on.
Okay, I apologize in advance. This question might be really basic, but you said that in some of these plans and everything, it can be difficult for your team, for you and your team to convince, I guess, a client or someone to, for example, include courtyards, which, as we know, are really important for urban heat and thermal comfort. But why? So why is that difficult to sometimes convince people to include?
Well, I'm not quite sure, but the basic element in this is the copying architectural element into the vernacular or into the regional architecture. They are so much impressed by the alien or the foreign uh, masses and elements and facades and materials, and the technology side, that they are so confident in this that they don't need a space for the passive cooling. They don't need space for a communal activity as a public space, and they don't need trees, and they don't need walls, thick walls. So I think these are the reasons, that the copying and the working and learning new things rather than working and enhancing or improving the existing body of knowledge.
Right. Yeah, I often think about this. Innovation is great. Humans are very interesting with innovation, but I feel like sometimes we abandon the practical common sense and traditional in favor of constant innovation. So that's yeah, knowing what the barriers are to why these techniques that we know work aren't being adapted is really interesting. And I appreciate you explaining it, this fascination with the foreign, with the alien, and favoring that over what is known and traditional. Okay, I have one last question for you. I think you're joining this network we have. I'm really looking forward to collaborating with you and communicating with you. I have to tell you, I've already mentioned you in a few dialogues I've had with other people in the network, and they're so interested. People really kind of light up when they hear about indigenous cooling. I think it's foreign for a lot of people in the way they live. A lot of us simply don't see that in our environment. So we're curious, or we have seen it, but we're not so familiar what it means in the daily life. So I'm curious for you. You're joining this. We have this global network with members from across Asia, several members joining from Pakistan, in fact, but also Europe, across Africa, the Americas, Oceania. So what is interesting for you thinking about indigenous wisdom with urban heat and cooling? and thinking globally. So you're in a room with people from all over the world, and everybody's interested in indigenous wisdom for cooling. As an architect, what sorts of things interest you with that?
It's basically an initiative. I named it Talashi Saya. It's a very local term or indigenous term, Talashi Saya. Like in its meaning is in search of shade. When people gather here in our region and there is a high temperature, so people search for a small shade near a tree or near a wall or near some building kind of shadow. So they say that we need shade or they are in the Talashi Saya. It's basically an initiative and gathering or a taxonomy or a collection of more than 30 strategies that we have from past to present that people relying on. And the poverty is the best teacher in this. The resource scarcity is the best teacher in this process, in this Talashi Saya. And I'm sure there are certain elements and certain techniques and certain strategies from the indigenous ways here in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Peshawar in Pakistan that world can learn from us, and even the global architects can improve it further in such a way that the model work more freely in other parts of the world and other climate.
That's really interesting, Tariq. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, and we have so much to learn from you, and I look forward to it. I think this is going to be really great to have your expertise represented, you representing Peshawar. You have also studied and worked in other places, so you bring that global wisdom too. So I look forward to collaborating with you, and thank you for sharing a little bit. I think we'll have to do more recordings on this.
Thank you so much, Sandy. Thank you so much.